Hey everyone, welcome back. I know that it's been a while. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, I only record and upload videos when the Lord is prompting me to do that, right? So today happens to be one of those days. Praise the Lord. I hope that everyone has been having a blessed 2024 year thus far. I know that I have, but anyway, I'm coming on here to share this word that the Lord has given me for this 2024 year, and it's for all believers, right? And I just want to go ahead and start off with some of the passages and kind of share with you guys how we can apply this word to our life for this year, right? And so the first few verses that I want to share with you guys are in the book of Ruth. So if you want to just go ahead and turn there, or you could just hear me speak too, whatever works for you. So let me just open this. So I'm going to be reading Ruth chapter 2, verses 8 through 13. So I have my Bible here. You guys can follow along, or you could just hear, right? So Ruth chapter 2 verses 8 through 13 says this: Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen, my daughter. Do not glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings have come to take refuge." Then she said, "I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants." Right, so if you keep reading, you obviously will know that the story of Ruth, right, is a story of redemption, right? Because Ruth, like Boaz mentioned in these verses, did have a husband. The husband passed away. So then Ruth decided to stick to her mother-in-law, right? The mother-in-law was like, "No, I can't give you another son for you to marry. Like, you just need to go back home." And Ruth was persistent. She said that she was going to follow her mother-in-law. And in doing so, she met Boaz, right? And so we know that through reading these passages, right, that Ruth found favor in the eyes of Boaz, right? He admired what she did, that she stuck through with her mother-in-law, and that she did not go back home, and that she was there with basically foreigners. And so, yeah, the story ends with Ruth and Boaz. As many of you already know, they got married, and then they had children together, right? Which is so beautiful. That's the same way that the Lord sees us, right? We can go through so many misfortunate events, so many bad things that happen, but God comes in, right? And he shows us tremendous favor, and he does so much with the little that we have, right? Like Ruth, for example, she didn't have anything, right? She just had her mother-in-law, and that was it. And so that's the same way that it could be with us. You could be in a situation right now, or in a position where you don't have much, right? But coming to God will come and he will show you favor, right? He will show you that unmerited, undeserved grace, that none of us, right? None of us deserve. And so this to me really stood out when the Lord led me here, right? When he was talking to me about favor. So I did include that. If you follow me on Instagram, that's why I included that when I delivered the word, right? And so the Lord, right? God is so good. Oh my goodness. Praise the Lord. But yeah, he once again confirmed the word, and he actually led me to the book of Esther. So I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many parallels between these two stories that I absolutely love, right? So in the book of Esther, just to kind of give a little short background, right? Esther ended up marrying King Xerxes. I think that's how you say his name. And basically there was like a law that was placed by Haman, and it was like a decree. He wanted the Jews to be killed. And so Esther was in a position to kind of turn that around, right? Like her uncle Mordecai spoke to her about what was happening. And so Esther, because she was married to King Xerxes, she was able to kind of have that close connection and able to speak to her husband about this, right? And so in the last, in the Esther, the last 3 chapters, right? That's where you see a lot of like the transformation that took place, right? So the Lord did lead me to the last 3 chapters. So I'm not going to read through all of it. You guys could go ahead and read it. I'm sure a lot of people have already read it. But I'll just read a few verses here. And we're going to start off in Esther chapter 7 and the first 6 verses. So it says, so the king and Haman went into feast with Queen Esther, and the second day, as they were drinking wine after the feast, the king again said to Esther, what is your wish, Queen Esther? It shall be granted you, and what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom it shall be fulfilled. Then Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, if it please the king, let my life be granted me for my wish, and my people for my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. If we had been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would have been silent, for our affliction is not to be compared with the loss to the king. Then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther, who is he, and where is he? Who has dared to do this? And Esther said, a foe, an enemy, this wicked Haman. Then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. Right, and so from there we know that he was sent to be killed. And then in chapter 8, in verse 3, it says, then Esther spoke again to the king. She fell at his feet and wept and pleaded with him to avert the evil plan of Haman that he had devised against the Jews. When the king held out the gold scepter to Esther, Esther rose and stood before the king, and she said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and if the things seem right before the king, and if I am pleasing in his eyes, let an order be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman, which he wrote to destroy the Jews who are in the provinces of the king. For how can I bear to see the calamity that is coming to my people, or how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? Then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hanged on him the gallows, because he intended to lay hands on the Jews, but you may write as you please with regard to the Jews in the name of the king, and seal it with the king's ring, for an edict written in the name of the king and sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked, right? So her husband, the King Xerxes, basically told Esther, like, you can write on this paper whatever you write, it'll be signed, and that's going to be the final say, right? So basically, God used Esther to save so many, I don't even know, like millions, possibly, I don't recall. But she basically, God used Esther to save so many of the Jews' lives, right? This is a beautiful story. If you read through the whole thing, you'll see how God was able to use that one person, right? And Mordecai as well, right? Her uncle. But it was the Lord who allowed her husband, King Xerxes, to have favor in his sight for her towards Esther. And that's something that the Lord is doing with us believers, right? He is going to allow you to have favor with many people, with your coworkers, with your boss, with long lost relatives, with basically everyone and anyone that he puts you around in those circles. God's going to give you favor so that you can be able to accomplish the will that God has for you in that place, in that territory, wherever you are, right? And so that's what I believe that God was speaking to me, right? That he's going to give us favor so that we can go out, into this world as believers and have faith and make those faith-filled moves, right? So that God's will can be done, just like it was in this story, in the story of Esther, right? God softened the heart of King Xerxes towards his wife, right? And he allowed her to basically, be able to save all these people from dying, right? All these people that were going to be killed unjustly, right? And so when it comes to like this word favor, like God is going to give us favor not to do like just small things, but to do big things, right? And I don't know about you guys, but like when the Lord spoke to me this word, it was actually December of 2023. Right. And so going into the new year, I went back to work January 8th of this year. And like the first 2 days, when working with my coworkers, right, I'm seeing their hunger for the word, and they're just like, they were so happy to see me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the favor that God was telling me about, so God is going to be giving us and is already giving us favor for us to go out and to do his will, to do, the work that he has called us to do, right? So I don't know what the Lord has called you to, for this season, but whatever it is, like, believe it, believe in it, believe in God for it. And, put yourself out there, take that step of faith, right? Don't hold back. God is with you. If it's his will, like, he will carry you all the way through it, right? And it's going to be so beautiful. And obviously, like, everything that we do is for all of his glory and honor, right? And so, yeah, I'm happy that I was able to share this word with you guys. This is definitely the year of the Lord's favor. So keep that in mind wherever you go, whatever you step out to do this year. Remember that the Lord is with you, right? And there are so many things that God can do, right? Through something so small, right? Even through, like, us, like, we're one person in like a population of 8 billion people, right? God is able to do so much through one human being if you allow yourself to, right? So yes, may God's will be done in your life. And that's my encouragement for all of you. I hope that this word was a blessing for everyone. I know that this year already has been so good for me. Like, God is just moving left and right. Like, it's just, it's just amazing to be able to live it out already, so soon. And so, yeah, like, let me know, you can DM me on Instagram or send me, or, post a comment, or, however you want to communicate with me, send me a text, let me know how your year has been, and if you've already seen God's favor in your life working this year, right? Like, I want to hear those testimonies, right? Because it's all for the glory and honor of God. And it's so encouraging to be able to hear all of that, for our brothers and sisters to be able to also see those things. You know, God is so good, and, you know, we are truly blessed people to be a part of his kingdom, right? As I said in the beginning, like, we know that his return is imminent, you know, so like, be encouraged, you know, be encouraged to go and, you know, buy a car. Well, not buy a car, but, you know, like, go and talk to your neighbor, you know, something as simple as that. Sometimes it's not that easy. You know, especially if we don't know our neighbors. Like, we know our neighbors, thank God. But, you know, go and talk to your neighbor, or, you know, book a trip because, you know, you want to take a missions trip or something, you know, like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, you guys. There's so much work that we can do, and not only will we be blessed by it, but like, so many people will be blessed by it. Like the story of Esther, like, so many people were blessed by it, right? And that is exactly where God's heart is, right? He loves everyone and he cares about everyone, right? We are truly like looked after as his children, right? He's honestly like, yeah, he's the best, right? He is the best, and he is all that we need in this world. So yeah, if you happen to have any questions, any comments, like I said, go ahead and leave them below. But besides that, I hope that this 2024 year is a blessing for each and every single one of you. You know, I will be praying for everyone. Feel free to, you know, like I said, leave a comment, share this video with someone. Maybe someone needs this encouragement. Right, but besides that, I hope you all have a blessed year and take care. God bless you guys.